So in a way where you're able to funnel in one channel, for example, your support tickets, the things that are generating from the sales call, have it connect to your CRM. So just centralize the information that's being generated by your business from the start. Exactly. Have a way to be able to get an overview of this. You can use some AI as well on top of this to summarize what's coming up. So there's ways to like use integrations and use ways to have like your departments, your teams funnel up the information. Can be an easy way just to keep an eye out on signals, see the patterns. Maybe I should be assigning resources to look into this. It's been happening a lot, this this issue that we're seeing. Like maybe we should look into this, or maybe we should dig in that patterns for customers.
Welcome to Super Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm your host, Shahid Durrani. Today we have with us Etienne Garbugli. Etienne helps entrepreneurs and innovators use customer insights to build and grow business. He's a 3-time startup founder, a 5-time entrepreneur, and a customer research expert. Welcome to our show, Etienne.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Pleasure is all mine. I appreciate your time today. Can you elaborate a little bit more about what you do and how you help entrepreneurs?
So I have a background in customer research and user research. And I've had the interesting desire to start businesses in technology. So I've gone through a few of the processes and I figured out that I really wanted to better understand how to specifically build a business in B2B. So in let's say 10 years ago, essentially, I spent a full year researching B2B customer development to learn how to build effectively companies that sell to other businesses. So ever since, I've been working with different types of business owners, different entrepreneurs, helping them understand a little bit how to validate their products and make sure that they are able to build the right product for their audience and they're getting traction on the market.
So what steps do you take to determine that the product is right for the customer?
So usually it will be about understanding the needs within the organizations, figuring out what the pain points are to make sure that you're building on an actual need as opposed to building on maybe sometimes just ideas that may not represent the reality inside organizations. It's part of my observations and my own situation, my own experiences, seeing entrepreneurs that are building complex technology for organizations and then fail to find the appropriate level of traction in the market. And unfortunately, that's a case that happens too often.
Yeah, you definitely have experience in the growth stage of startups. Can you share some common mistakes entrepreneurs make trying to pinpoint their best customer segments or finding those targets?
Yeah. So I see this as it's a little bit of a continuous refinement model. So even if you're looking at even earlier than that, as you are launching a new product, for example, you may get a bunch of different customers that are in different segments, different industries. And then one mistake that entrepreneurs often make is they'll be listening to the feedback of customers that are very different in terms of their behaviors, in terms of their needs. And that leads to building a product that doesn't necessarily have the distinctive advantage to really get adopted in the market. And I help companies figure out what are these slices within their audience that are the most prone to help them build a sustainable business. And I do this initially with the companies that are early stage, but I do it as well with companies that have reached product market fit and are ready to accelerate. Because at those moments, it becomes critically important to put all your investment in a target that you can actually scale and get more customers. For example, if you're in your organization, you're targeting entrepreneurs specifically, or you're working with entrepreneurs, it makes sense to not spread yourself too thin by targeting too many different segments, different types of audiences, because it muddies a little bit the targeting, and it doesn't allow you to accelerate with your acquisition strategy as effectively as you could.
Can you share some of the top industries that people should be looking at for the next 5 years?
I wish I knew if to completely on that front. I do
Yeah.
think there's going to be, obviously, we're all hearing a lot about AI, and now that's very
Yeah.
exciting. It does feel like, or my running assumption and assumptions from people that I speak to often,
Mhm.
especially in B2B, is that it will become more about more specific, industry specific data sets that you can build on. For example, working in one specific industry, acquiring information about that industry, and then training a model based on the specifics of that industry. It also seems like there might be really big opportunities in terms of everything that's vision, computer vision, things that are more industrial. I think it's still going to be a big part of the growth. And I can see a lot of other industries that are accelerating.
Can you elaborate on computer vision?
Yeah, so there's more and more systems that rely on using video signals for analysis and to get more data or and get more conclusive evidence based on video. For example, you can see it applied in sports where they will have analysis systems on the performance of the athletes. You can see it as well in productivity.
Like having cameras positioned in different locations to see what's happening.
Yeah, and using the video signals
Data.
to do analysis. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Very good. I had a guest on the show. He was talking about eye tracking, right? Consumers' behavior in stores
Yeah,
and tracking their eyes, where they're moving towards before they make a purchasing decision, or on a website, for
yeah,
example, where they're looking the heat spots on the
yeah.
site, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just in that direction as well. There's other exciting innovations. I think last year there was eye vision correction in video conferencing calls like we're on right now. So just be able to, you can also analyze people's body language through computer vision. So there's a lot of exciting technologies that will just unlock other exciting technologies.
So there are some studies on body language to see whether a customer is in high intent to purchase something or not that you're offering them.
That's not what I do specifically, but I work with organizations that are in deep techs, for example, and that will use that kind of signal to their work. Right now, I'm working with a company that's in the learning space in virtual reality. So they do use some of these signals to help train people in their sector. It's a little bit the type of organizations that I tend to help is companies that are in deep tech, for example, that have a very innovative products that could work for different industries and could help different type of
Yeah.
customers. Help them then sort that out a little bit.
Cool. You having launched multiple startups in your career, what are the key areas that you found that are most important for any startup to focus on initially? There's some that come to mind right away. I want to hear from your experience, specific
Yeah.
experience. What would you recommend someone that's going to launch a startup that they should really, really focus on?
Yeah, so I see the early stage a little bit as two aspects that are very critical. So one is making sure that you can sustain yourself long enough until you find something that actually works. And the other part is focusing on a concept that they call the product market fit, which is the that you're building something that is valuable for a certain segment of customers. So it's about focusing your energies on the things that will help you get a foothold on a market so you can actually start delivering values to customers.
Like basically testing?
Yes, I think one good way to approach this, and as you probably see with some of the entrepreneurs you work with, oftentimes people have different ideas, and it can be a good idea to try to test different alternatives or different versions with different audience to find the right starting idea that connects with an audience that you can actually grow from there moving forward. So different ideas have different potential. So it can be a good idea early on to make sure that you're latching on the most promising opportunity for your business.
That's a really important recommendation and a point there, because a lot of us just jump in without that type of research.
Yeah, and in that case, oftentimes there's studies saying that I think 93% of businesses pivot, especially in the tech sector. So that kind of is the outcome of that to some extent, where people start in one field and then they realize, oh, it's a little bit more promising, and if we change this a little bit, and then they navigate their way to finding the right configuration for their business. But oftentimes, some of this time is cutting into your ability to keep going with the business. So there's some challenges in that cash flow management as well.
Yeah. Are you also involved in opportunities where you jump on an idea and work with them, like as going in as a partner?
So I have services that can help be a partner for the organizations. But as far as jumping in an organization, it depends on the opportunity and the
Yeah.
passion and the fit and everything in that
Yeah.
space, because I do have my consulting going at the same time.
The book that you wrote, Lean B2B, can you share something from that book that has helped someone create incredible growth for themselves?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that's a little tricky with books is you can't always connect the people that have used it.
Of
But one great
course.
story, I think you're in Toronto, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, based out of
Yes.
Toronto.
Yes, there's a great company in Toronto called Lupio. And I believe now they're closing in on like $1 billion company essentially. And they have used my methodology to start their company initially, where they have actually applied the methodology for the research to understand the specific pain point that they were hoping to go after, was looking inside organizations. And they used the methodology to be able to iterate and find the right product to be able to go to market. So that's one example. I have incubators, accelerators using the methodologies. I have other types of businesses as well using the methodology. I think the greatest benefit of the book, for example, is just to lay the process in a sequential or structured manner, so people can understand: am I headed in the right direction, or should I be changing things a little bit? Which is a little bit difficult to get in some situations.
It's important too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Your time management hacks got massive attention. Can you share any tip that is not that commonly known that could really help entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs that are looking to up their productivity game?
Yeah, I could. I'm definitely not specifically a time management expert, so it was an interesting experience to get some
Yeah.
a massive amount of visibility on that space specifically. I think
Yeah.
one thing that's very useful that I try to do as well is separating the part that's more thinking and the part that's execution. So structured my days in a way that I use my best thinking time to do some strategy work, of some definition work, and then try to separate and work in sprints. So where I actually do manage to all my head in this, but also all my energy when there's a time to execute on the different projects. Just the fact that sometimes when you're working and you're combining thinking and doing like that, you end up oftentimes procrastinating, or you end up in a situation where you can get stuck in a cycle.
Overthinking. Mhm.
Yeah. So I do like the idea of like separating the two, and I don't see a ton of people doing
Good
that. But
point.
that was one of good advice that I got from someone, a teacher I had a while back.
It's managing your activities at the end of the day. I believe it was
Yeah,
Napoleon Hill that used to say that you can't really manage time, you manage activities. And that's what you're explaining. And that's a really good point you have there. Not get caught up in the overthinking when you need to be productive, because I
yeah,
used to suffer from that majorly. It was one of the characteristics holding me back in a big way, because I would think, and I thought I was being productive by thinking to come up with a plan, but I would slaughter that plan because I would just keep repeating,
yeah,
do a little bit. And then while I was doing, I would still be repeating different scenarios. So my energy wasn't in the work and I wasn't really focused. I wasn't present. The quality suffers too. But I like what you said is that you keep a separate time for the thinking, and then when you're working, you just know that time I'm not. Even if a thought comes, okay,
yeah,
we'll do that after. We'll look at
yeah.
that after.
And I think that ties really well into like energy
Yeah, I
management,
like it.
which yeah,
Yes. Yeah. Huge part for energy
yeah,
management. That's right.
yeah.
Hmm.
Because it's a fine line as well, like thinking that you don't need to have the specific thinking time, and or you don't need that focused time. But the reality is like they're both critical parts. It's just the way you structure them can have a good benefit in terms of your ability to perform well in both.
Hmm. So, what inspired you to write so many books?
So the first one, Lean B2B, was that I was in a situation where I had a startup that didn't work out. And I just finished it and I was like, I don't know exactly why it fully failed. So I needed to figure it out. So that's why I spent a year researching it. And I ended up writing a book based on that. The other ones are based in problems that I've noticed working with organizations. So my book, Solving Product, for example, is about how you actually get above these growth ceilings, where you end up in a situation where, okay, the business is doing good, but how do you get to that that next stage. So that was the main idea behind it. And Find Your Market is a book where I see a lot of companies that have successful innovation, successful products, but they end up in a situation where they don't get enough demand in the sector that they're targeting. And it's how do you actually reposition your product in a way to find the most appropriate targets for your product or your business.
So can you share some tips of what an entrepreneur can do when things are going well, but they need to go
Yeah.
to the next stage? What steps could they take to make a change in their business?
Yeah. So I think it's so one of the core ideas behind it is that when we talk about, for example, like exponential growth or like this massive like hockey stick, if we look at it from a Canadian perspective, so that is actually a lot of tiny improvements that just compound. So it's not like one big thing that you do and that keeps going. So it's about feeding that continuous improvement wheel where it gets to a point where all the improvements compound to that. Part of the thinking around there is figuring out, like being able to identify the specific place where that specific element in your business model that's holding you back. So there's diagnostic tools there where you look at your assumptions, things that you have about your business that versus the things that you don't know. And then from there, how do you actually uncover the information to unlock this? So one good thing that I've seen a lot of businesses do, and I've done with a lot of businesses as well, is to always try to understand the journey for people to become customers in your organization, because that's often telling you about how you can actually accelerate that journey, for example. So if you know that your product is especially useful when people are buying a new car, you can dig into like the process of buying new cars to find a context where you can find new customers for this.
It's being creative.
There's
Right?
a
In
part
your
of
research.
creativity, yeah, for sure. Yes,
Yeah.
it's creative and also being resourceful to connect the things together.
Resourceful. Yeah. And
Yeah,
you're definitely a pro at customer research. Now, say, for example, there's a extremely busy entrepreneur. He's wearing different hats, but he wants to research the customer. He wants to make changes. He wants to learn more of how he can improve his business.
yeah,
What steps could someone like that take to gather the customer research with a limitation on time that they could simplify in their world and initiate immediately to gain
yeah,
that kind of research about their
yeah.
customers?
I think one good way, if
Yeah.
you have concerns in terms of the amount of time you have to do this, I think it's to make this continuous. So in a way where you're able to funnel in one channel, for example, your support tickets, the things that are generating from the sales call, have it connect to your CRM. So just centralize the information that's being generated by your business from the start. Exactly. So you have support tickets that are coming in, have a way to be able to get an overview of this. You can use some AI as well on top of this to summarize what's coming up. So there's ways to like use integrations and use ways to have like your departments, your teams funnel up the information. So you can have, I think it's Sachin Oreki, who's a great entrepreneur. He was talking about, I think the name he was using for this is having that river, like that feedback river that's coming up in your channels. And that can be an easy way just to keep an eye out on signals, see the patterns, see things. You won't have the same level of depth, but it gives you a sense of maybe I should be assigning resources to look into this. It's been happening a lot, this problematic, this issue that we're seeing. Like maybe we should look into this, or maybe we should dig in that patterns for customers. So there's ways to centralize that information.
Yeah, Etienne is a great point. I interviewed guests on the show before that created such programs using AI that grabs all the information from every area of the business and actually gives them triggers when something is off. So they get a snapshot, a weekly or
Yeah,
daily snapshot of their business, takes them a millisecond or a second just to find out. Boom, they get in the email or they look at their dashboard, they know exactly what is going on that day with all their information. And that's gold. That's
yeah, for sure.
data.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
the part of the concern is, especially when the business is successful, is to miss the signals sometimes when there's things that are not going as well or things are changing in the market. So it's good to
Yeah.
have some kind of way to spot
Yeah.
check or be able to
Yeah.
test your assumptions.
Yeah. AI is going to help tremendously with that.
Yeah. I believe so.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, it was great talking to you. Can you share what you feel your innermost superpower is that got you to this point in your life?
I think myself in this situation, I think I am very good at learning. So continuous learning. And as a result of that and my fascination and curiosity with this stuff, I try to teach the same thing to our organization, try to transfer
Good.
some of that curiosity about their customers or their business, how they fit in the markets.
So you read a lot of books.
I read a lot of books. I read a lot of articles. I listen to a lot of different things. I listen to episodes from great podcasters like yourself. I am
Thank
constantly
you.
trying to, constantly trying to learn and keep that learning mindset.
So book wise, how many books do you read a month?
A month, I'd say 2 a month, but depends
2 a month.
on. I try to take the time to fully read the content of the book, but I'm always also reading other supportive stuff or
Yeah.
listening to things. Yeah.
To implement. What you read is you implement. You don't just read it, consciously become aware of that information. You take some key points and then you implement it in your life.
Yeah, there's a great quote about for authors. It's a book is made of books.
Yes.
So a
Yes.
great book is made of books. So essentially,
Yeah.
it's part of feeding your learning, and it's also you
Yeah.
build on the work
Yeah.
of others.
Yeah. That's a real secret behind your books.
I'd say that's one of the secrets, but yes. Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate your time today, my friend. Keep in touch.
likewise.
It was great meeting you. Great to learn more about what you're doing and how you're helping entrepreneurs and startups. We know we all need the help, and that's why we're here. So appreciate your time today.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.